The European Commission has called on Hungary to clarify reports claiming Hungary's foreign minister regularly shared sensitive EU information to his Russian counterpart.
US President Donald Trump announced a 5-day extension on the deadline for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, saying he had very productive conversations with Tehran.
Slovenia's Liberal Prime Minister Robert Golob has claimed victory over Conservatives in a fiercely contested parliamentary election.
The European Commission has called on Hungary to clarify reports claiming Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó regularly shared sensitive information from European Union meetings to his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov.
The reports regarding the Hungarian foreign minister allegedly disclosing to his Russian counterpart the closed-door ministerial level discussion in the Council are greatly concerning, and a relationship of trust between member states and between them and the institution is fundamental for the work of the EU, and we expect the Hungarian government to provide the clarifications.
First reported by the Washington Post, several current and former European security officials were cited saying Szijjártó regularly calls Lavrov during breaks in European Council meetings with direct reports on what was discussed. The Hungarian government denied the allegations, calling them fake news. The reports are explosive as EU member states are bound by the principle of sincere cooperation, and the content of the meetings is understood to be confidential. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk was among the first to condemn the revelations, saying they came as no surprise. The reports emerged as political tensions rise ahead of Hungary's parliamentary elections. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's government is one of the few in Europe to maintain regular ties with the Kremlin. His Fidesz party faces a strong challenge from opposition leader Peter Magyar's Tisza party, which is leading in opinion polls.
The United States has announced that it is extending the deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to international shipping. President Donald Trump on Monday said that he would hold off on strikes against Iranian power plants for 5 more days, adding he had very good and productive conversations with Iranians that could yield a complete and total resolution in the war. Trump made this announcement on his Truth Social site hours ahead of his self-imposed deadline later in the day. The US president also stressed that the suspension was subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Throughout the weekend and into early Monday, Iran's neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Kuwait, continued to intercept incoming ballistic missiles. While one missile struck an inhabited area near Riyadh, Israel launched what it called a wide-scale wave of strikes against Tehran. In Israel, during his visit to southern communities, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described it as a miracle that no lives were lost after an Iranian missile hit a secretive nuclear research site late Saturday. Speaking to a Farsi-language satellite network, U.S. Navy Admiral Brad Cooper confirmed that missile and drone manufacturing sites are being targeted to eliminate future threats. He suggested the Iranian public wait for a clear signal from the U.S. president before taking to the streets, as projectiles continue to be launched from populated areas. The war launched by the U.S. and Israel on February 28 has now claimed over 2,000 lives.
The head of the International Energy Agency said Monday that the global economy faces a major threat because of the Iran war. Fatih Birol told Australia's National Press Club in Canberra that the war in the Middle East has severely damaged more than 40 energy assets across 9 countries, as he warned of deepening risks to the global economy.
I think no country will be immune to the effects of this crisis if it continues to go in this direction. So there is a need for global efforts around the world.
He said the crisis in the Middle East has had a worse combined impact than the 2 oil shocks of the 1970s and the effect on gas markets of the Russia-Ukraine war. Oil prices continued to climb as the end of the Iran war was not in sight. The official added that he was consulting with governments in Europe and Asia about the prospect of releasing further stockpiled oil.
Slovenia's ruling liberals and opposition right-wing populists were nearly tied, according to final preliminary results in Sunday's fiercely contested parliamentary election. With nearly all votes counted, the State Election Commission announced the centre-left Freedom Movement, led by incumbent Prime Minister Robert Golob, received 28.5%, slightly ahead of the right-wing Slovenian Democratic Party, led by former Premier Janez Janša, a supporter of US President Donald Trump, who received 28.1%. The results signaled a time of political uncertainty in the Central European nation, as none of the main parties will have a majority in the 90-member parliament. Speaking after the results were released, Prime Minister Golob claimed victory and expressed confidence his party would form the next government. Sunday's vote was seen as a key test whether Slovenia will stay on its liberal course or sway toward the right. But the nearly equal results clearly reflect deep divisions, and whoever forms the future government will have to depend on smaller parties that will act as kingmakers.
France's municipal elections have delivered one clear message tonight, and it's that the left is holding on to the major cities in France, including the capital Paris, where I'm currently standing. And behind me, left-wing supporters have just finished celebrating the victory of socialist mayor Emmanuel Grégoire. In the second largest city of France, Marseille, well, socialist Benoit Payon was also re-elected. But the left remains divided. The hard left of France Unbowed Party also made quite some significant gains this Sunday, even though they were excluded from alliances, especially by the socialists during the campaign, who accused France Unbowed of anti-Semitism. The far right failed to win some of the major cities that it was targeting, including Marseille and the southern city of Toulon. But in Nice, Éric Ciotti, an ally of the far-right National Rally, ended up winning. President Emmanuel Macron's Renaissance Party also made some major gains, including the southwestern city of Bordeaux. But this Sunday is more than just about local politics. It is also an early sign of how the battle of France's 2027 presidential election is beginning to take shape.
Former French Prime Minister Lionel Jospin has died at the age of 88, his family confirmed on Monday. A titan of the Socialist Party, Jospin served as head of government from 1997 to 2002 during a period of cohabitation with centre-right President Jacques Chirac. His premiership was defined by landmark social reforms that reshaped French society, most notably the reduction of the working week to 35 hours and the introduction of universal health coverage. Jospin also pioneered civil unions, granting legal rights to same-sex partnerships long before the legislation of marriage equality in France. Guided by the philosophy of yes to the market economy, no to a market society, he sought a middle ground between capitalism and socialism. His political career came to an abrupt end in 2002 following a shock first-round defeat to far-right candidate Jean-Marie Le Pen in the presidential election. Following his retirement from frontline politics, Jospin served on France's Constitutional Council until 2019.
British police are investigating an apparent hate crime after 4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish charity in London were set on fire, authorities said. Officers were called to Golders Green, a London neighbourhood with a large Jewish community, after receiving reports of a fire. Multiple gas cylinders on the vehicles exploded, causing windows to break in an adjacent apartment block. Nearby homes were evacuated as a precautionary measure, and no injuries were reported.
We could see smoke coming forth all over the place to find out that, unfortunately, 4.5/5 ambulances were destroyed by disgusting, awful, scum people who prevented people trying to get medical help.
Authorities said the cause of the fire was being investigated. Meanwhile, political leaders, including Prime Minister Keir Starmer, took to social media to condemn the incident as an anti-Semitic attack.
Alors ici, là, on est dans une des salles les plus importantes de l'exposition. C'est vraiment un des moments d'apogée de la carrière de Renoir, lorsqu'il peint ces 3 couples d'encens, des très grands formats. C'est la première fois dans l'histoire de l'art qu'un artiste représente ce sujet de cette manière. C'est des œuvres qui sont profondément pleines, d'amour en fait, en réalité, de tendresse, de désir, et où s'exprime pleinement l'idéal amoureux de Renoir. Renoir n'est pas qu'un peintre, de la couleur, du plein air, de la lumière, c'est aussi un grand dessinateur et il a dessiné en fait tout au long de sa carrière pendant presque 60 ans et c'est ce qu'on veut montrer avec cette exposition qui dévoile à la fois des dessins, des aquarelles, des pastels, des sanguines et qui montre vraiment toute l'étendue de son talent au-delà de la peinture.